Welcome to the 7th episode of BAI Communications Smart Communities podcast, where we speak with business leaders and industry experts to ask them what the future holds for connectivity. In the first part of this two-part episode, we are excited to be joined by Liz St. Louis, Assistant Director of Smart Cities at Sunderland City Council. Interviewing her is Paul Osborne, Chief Commercial Officer, BAI Communications UK. In part 1, Liz and Paul discuss the 20-year strategic partnership between BAI and Sunderland City Council, and how together they are building the UK's most advanced smart city.
In October of last year, Sunderland City Council and BAI announced a 20-year partnership to deliver smart cities in the Sunderland area. And we're all really excited by that. So how did we end up in this 20-year relationship, and why is it important?
It was just a natural continuation, really, of the smart city journey in Sunderland. As you know, Paul, we've been on our quest to deliver, to go on our journey towards a smart city since about the springtime of 2019. We'd made some quite considerable progress in terms of underlying connectivity, in terms of those real transformational use cases that make a difference to our residents, our businesses and those that visit Sunderland. But we'd reached a point where we really needed to think about scale, about really kind of turbocharging, I guess, our efforts. And we decided at that point that we really needed to seek the support of a strategic partner to really help us on our journey and really help us to realise some very significant ambitions that we had. And so we went out to the marketplace in November 2020 now, and we started that journey looking for a strategic partner, and really pleased that, BAI stuck with us through to the end of that, and we concluded dialogue there in August 2021.
Yeah, and there was some heavy lifting, right? It was a heavy lift year for both of us, I think.
Yeah, it certainly was, but I think, that was necessary. We entered into as you say, a 20-year strategic partnership, a significant investment on both sides. And then when we got to the end of the process, both sides were really, really clear what it was that we wanted to collectively achieve, what, individually we needed to bring to the party to meet those joint ambitions. And I think that really speeded things up in terms of then getting to a contractual position that we were mutually agreeable upon, and then absolutely into delivery, which has been a really exciting part of this from October, and just how quickly we've managed to hit the ground running, actually, because of all of that time that we spent in dialogue and really, thinking through our future.
I think it was a really interesting time. I think we've come out of it, in my view, with a really well-structured partnership that I think, really puts skin in the game for both of us. And I think that's a really, a key part of the partnership for me, is that we're both sharing, I think, risk and reward on this. And how important has that been to the council?
It really was such an important part for us. We didn't want just a contractual partner. We didn't want a concession arrangement. We wanted a true partner to go into this, to share risk, to share reward, but to really work through those kind of transformational and innovation use cases together. We believe that we bring, very unique contributions to this partnership. So, we're delighted that, we have managed to partner with BAI Communications. You bring with you such a pedigree, a global leader in communications, some of the fabulous work across the globe, and to include Sunderland now on your pin on your map. We're really, really proud of that. And I think then the council bring with us, a kind of pedigree in terms of our role as community leaders. We've brought forward a number of our partners across the city who are now engaging really actively in the partnership, but also I think the traction of the work that we've done. We were on our smart city journey. We had been for a couple of years, and I think you saw in that a real value that you could add to quite quickly, because we were on that journey and we had a number of use cases already underway, and a number of use cases where we were requiring advanced connectivity. So we'd, taken a foray into our first private 5G network, working under the DCMS 5G CAL funding, etc. So I think that traction probably was appealing to you, as well as us being a reasonably large city, a population of around 278,000. So reasonably large, but yet small enough and agile enough in order to make a difference, and make a difference quite quickly.
We love the strategy that the council have put together, and the people, you and your team are fantastic to work with, and that was really important to us. The program you have to have trust in the people you're going to work alongside, and we developed that from a very early days, which is great for us. And we talked about the use case there, but we'll come back to that in a little while, if that's okay. I'm really interested to talk about the 20-year aspect of this. I think, other people may be interested in why you've taken such a long-term view of that. From BAI perspective, that was one of the things we found really compelling. But it might be interesting just to bring that out for people, because others have not always taken such a long-term view of that. So it'd be interesting what the thinking was and how the council managed to get into that position.
I mean, I think, Paul, a really good question, but, a long-term partnership had always been there for us from the outset of the work. Quite the format and the nature of that partnership morphed and changed as we understood more about the marketplace and what we were able to achieve. But the long-term nature of the partnership, incredibly important. You can't build a smart city overnight. The kind of significant investment in infrastructure doesn't repay itself overnight. We have made some really good traction over the last couple of years, and certainly within the first 5 months of working with you guys. But this is long haul stuff. And we wanted a partner that would be in it for the long haul and would put skin in the game as well. We talk about risk and reward and joint risk and reward. And the only way to do that for us is to have that long-term partnership, that long-term arrangement.
Yeah, certainly from our perspective, obviously we're backed by CPPIB as our main shareholder, Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board. So long term is really what they do. There's long-term investment. So really compelling for us. And I think anybody else, any other cities thinking about that journey, I think that's a really important aspect for them to think about, that it is a long-term commitment.
I think we just hit it off really. And, all of our conversations were very beneficial. It didn't feel like we were sat at two separate sides of the table, I have to say, even though, because of COVID, all of our dialogues were undertaken remotely. But it never felt like a them and us. It just felt like we were coming around the table to discuss, the outcomes we were trying to achieve. And it felt, from the early days, we were all very, very focused on those outcomes. Yeah. And whilst the underlying connectivity is incredibly important, let's face it, it's the foundation stone. We can't go on and deliver anything without that underlying connectivity. I think we were all focused actually on what that could bring and the transformational use cases that we'd be able to deliver once we had that underpinning connectivity, and therefore better outcomes for residents, for businesses, for people that come and live, work and play in Sunderland.
Great. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that infrastructure now then, Liz, if that's okay. So I think it does underpin this, and it's not it's the means to the end rather than the end itself, but it's really important. So do you want to describe in your words, what it is we're building, this network of networks that we've talked about?
Yeah. And it is just that. It's a network of networks. Sometimes people focus very much on 5G. It's the buzz, isn't it? The moment of the day. But for us, it is that network of networks, and we can do so much as a local authority with a variety of those. We'd already started to deliver ultra-fast free Wi-Fi for particular areas of our city. And that's been incredibly beneficial. Some of the fastest download speeds in the country when we first started, and providing that free connectivity really, really important, and particularly, benefiting the leaving no one and nowhere behind, which is so important to Sunderland. So we've asked BAI in the first instance to help us expand that ultra fast free network, to take that on board, and to broaden that as we go. So for us, that's an incredibly important part of the network of networks, as is the citywide LoRaWAN, the long-range, low-powered network, really the IoT, Internet of Things backbone, and that's going to cover all of Sunderland, the whole of the Sunderland borough. And working with the guys, that's been designed to be fairly intense, so it can penetrate, so it can support our initiatives such as assistive technologies and reach into people's homes. And then it is about 5G as well. So we are developing a 5G outdoor private network, and that will cover our city centre and a new urban quarter called Riverside that we're developing. And again, that will bring us a whole host of benefits that we're starting to realise now. And the idea is we build an initial phase of networks. And then as we go, and we are already expanding those now as we're speaking to different organisations and institutions across the city, and certainly across the council as well, through a number of physical regeneration instances that we're progressing. So that will build and grow, and ultimately, and again coming back to our 20-year partnership, it is about achieving ubiquitous connectivity, advanced wireless connectivity right across the city, and that's our aim. Ultimately, of course, working with mobile network operators as well and their national rollout programmes, but really, really keen and always have been on the 5G neutral host.
I'll just pause a second, just call out. There's a few people I think to call out along the way in this. A lot of this service that we're provided be enabled by City Fibre. They're deploying a large fibre network throughout the city, and we're going to be using that as part of the backbone. Mavenir, who are going to help us with the 5G cells. WHP, who are helping with the build. AWTG, who are helping with the design, and KBR, who are obviously the local guys who are helping us do a great job on that Wi-Fi. So I think there's, it's not just about BAI, and it's not just about the council. There's an ecosystem out there who are really stepping up to help us on this, and everybody in that partnership has really, leaned in to help us. Not Kushan, I nearly forgot Connection, right? Connection doing that really, that IoT platform that we're going to develop and deploy is going to be a key enabler for us as well. So some great partners, and I think everybody has grabbed the spirit of this and really leaned into helping us develop the vision, but also get on with the execution. We're on target for delivering what we have to deliver this year, and everybody's very excited about it.
Yeah, no, incredibly excited. I can't tell you how excited we are getting now to start, seeing some of the kit arriving in Sunderland, and all getting excited about seeing the first small cell on the lamppost, or the first kind of, kit going into the data centre, etc. Because it's real. We've been talking about this for a long, long time. Our first phase is very much sponsored by government, and that's really helpful for us in terms of, the investment to create that first part of the underlying infrastructure. So yes, some very stringent timescales, but really pleased that we've managed to focus on those, and absolutely we're on track to achieve that.
Yeah, well, do you want to talk briefly about that, Liz? Because, I think government funding plays a key role in enabling this. And I think, government support is really critical to the successes that we're going to build upon.
Absolutely, Paul. I think it's about the benefits of being able to combine public funding with private sector investment, which is exactly what we've done here. We've bid into government for funds on a number of occasions, and we've been successful. So, I touched on it earlier, but the Department for Communities, the new Levelling Up department there sponsored us to the tune of £4.5 million to create some physical infrastructure at Riverside, but also the first of our network of networks in the city centre and across Riverside, the citywide LoRaWAN, and some initial sensor deployments as well. So incredibly helpful, and without that, we wouldn't have been able to enter the marketplace in such a strong position. And without that, potentially we wouldn't have attracted such a global player such as yourselves. So, that was incredibly timely, but incredibly important for our journey. And then, DCMS as well, their 5G Create Fund, which we bid into in the summer of 2020, that enabled us to really get going, and that enabled us to form a consortia, build our first private 5G network in the city, in between Vantec and Nissan. It's about last mile of supply. It's about automating a 40-ton truck and removing the safety driver, as we know, through teleoperations and through the power of 5G. And that, is incredibly important for our region. And we employ 30,000 people locally at our advanced manufacturing plant and, within the city. So anything we can do to ensure that is, remains the most productive set of manufacturing plants and keeps the jobs in the region is incredibly important. So, yeah, public funding really, really important for us. More recently, we've announced that, again, as part of a consortia with the North of Tyne, we've won into another fund, which is again DCMS sponsored, and that's around creating a digital platform for assets. And BAI, of course, have offered us their sponsorship and letters of support with that. So again, it's something that's important to the journey. It's something that we'll continue to do, and where we have use cases that we're progressing and we can get government funding to support the agenda, we'll continue to bid in there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think very important that role that government funding has played. So as we touched briefly on some of the outcomes that are ahead of us there, I think a great place to start would be if you could tell us a bit about some of the specific challenges that Sunderland as a community faces, and some of the areas that we're really hoping we can help to be part of the solution for the community. So I think that really sets the framework for when we start to talk about some of the outcomes, it really starts to bring that to life.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. And I think as a city in the northeast of England, we share many challenges with neighbouring authorities, certainly around things like the health and the education and digital skills and enterprise agendas. But what that brings with it for us is a whole host of opportunity as well. So a number of our priorities that we've agreed with yourselves and through our joint innovation board, which, as you know, both of our chief executives sit on that board and drive forward the innovation in the city, which is, again, a great opportunity for us, is really addressing at the heart of those. So, for us, health and social care and improving outcomes is a key priority. So straight away we identified, health and social care as one of our innovation use cases, and really pleased that now we're delivering a number of work streams in that space and really see some opportunity to start to make a really big difference. Of course, building on some of the fantastic work that my colleagues had already done in establishing assistive technologies in the city. And I think at the last count, and it grows every time I look at the figures, but we had assistive tech out in over 2,200 properties right across the city. But challenges for us are now in terms of scaling that. We want to scale that so all properties, where relevant, can benefit from that. And that's where the expertise of BAI can really come in and stand us in good stead in terms of that underpinning connectivity required, the digital and data solutions. And I think one of the things, again, extremely beneficial is that BAI are technology agnostic, so you don't really care about the end tech. What you care about is the outcomes and understanding the right components, the right digital architecture to be able to develop the solutions, required for us. So that's been a really important area for us, as has, and I touched on before, advanced manufacturing, such an important sector for us here in Sunderland, and has been so successful, with Nissan and all of the supply chain to Nissan, such an important part of the region. So again, working with a number of the sectors up at our advanced manufacturing plant, and again, understanding the difference that we can make and understanding how can we build on the successes that we have been able to realise so far with our connected automated logistics pilot up there. But again, very much in terms of education and skills, and we've got active work ongoing with our college, with our university, with Sunderland Software City, with our Together for Children's Arm Length Children's Company, really raising aspirations of children and young people in the city and helping them to understand the pathways required in order for them to really benefit from a viable future career in tech. And then very much in terms of digital enterprise as well. And in fact, very, very recently, we've agreed to an IoT 5G accelerator, which we're going to be developing over the coming months. And as you say, incredibly excited to have the first network of networks live over the summer this year. And we want to encourage local people to come and be part of that and be able to look at how they can then potentially develop new products and services and bring those to market, working on the foundations that we've already placed in the city.
When we talked about assistive care, I think, everybody gets excited that, the council, it's a big funding element of what the council spends, keeping people in care homes, in hospitals who potentially could be back at home with the right level of support from families and from the social community. We talked about a vision where the person can be out of that care home or out of hospital in at home, and we can have a level of an app that can work with their families that can let them know that mum has opened the curtains that day, she's got out of bed, that level of information can be passed into families, and in that enables families to be able to care for their own in the community, as well as community support. As you said, there's a couple of thousand homes already started well on that journey with the communications, and the networks that we'll build will just increase our ability to do that and expand at scale. As you said, it's not really about the tech. We're trying to find just the right solutions and the right partners to make sure we can deliver on those outcomes. And that's a real, for me, that was really exciting when we started to talk, because being able to build an infrastructure solution that has such a powerful outcome in the community, not just for the individuals concerned, but also for the ability to redirect that public money into areas that we can look to invest further. And so you end up with a multiplying effect of those kind of services. So really exciting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's a challenge that most local authorities face. We've got growing populations, people are living longer, people are needing care. And actually, for most people, wanting to stay in their own home, having the ability to stay in their own home and keep safe and well for as long as possible, is absolutely what people want. But likewise, as you say, when people unfortunately have to go in to hospital for care, or perhaps in for short-term rehabilitation, etc. It's having the right technologies and the right blend of technology and human care in order to provide that right level of support for people. And there's such a lot we can do these days with technology as well. So some of the case studies are so powerful that my colleagues in social care have produced, and just what an absolute transformation it can make to individuals' lives. And it is really humbling, actually, to be able to work in an area that you can see such great, achievements, such great outcomes. And I'll go back to partnership, Paul, because, in the first 5 months of our engagement since we became official, again, it's been such a great partnership approach where we've, held a number of workshops now with our social care colleagues. We're all around the table, we're all getting into it together, we're all, better defining the ambitions, the challenges, yet the opportunities, and each of us bringing something that's our own kind of unique contribution to the table, that's making that, that end solution so powerful. It's
that end-to-end view, isn't it?
It is, and it's absolutely great to be part of, Paul.
Yeah.